What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN's Who Won E3 2012 video. I'm Greg Miller representing the PlayStation team alongside
Ryan McCaffrey from IGN Xbox and
Samuel Claiborne talking about Nintendo.
All right, boys, we each have our company. Who won? What was the definitive press conference / showing?
Wait, somebody won this year?
Yeah, they did, and their name was Ubisoft.
That's true.
Ubisoft.
They had some good games on every single system.
And they had Girlwood, too, which I was a big fan of during their conference. But the big thing, right, is that their conference brought games. Assassin's Creed, the Watch Dogs, all this cool stuff people were ready to see and do something with.
And a legitimate surprise in the form of Watch Dogs, too. That game floored everybody. It blew up Twitter instantaneously, and it was the must-see game. I walked over by their booth today, covered in Best of E3 nominations. You literally couldn't even see the booth.
Now, that's an interesting thing, right? I wrote about this earlier today. You know, for me, for PlayStation, it was God of War, which we'd seen before, All-Stars seen before, Last of Us seen before, Beyond leaked hours before the conference. There were no giant surprises, right? So is that why Watch Dogs was able just to walk away, Sam, and be like, oh, hey, I'm this awesome thing, you've never heard of me, and that's why everybody was like, I gotta know about this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were all disappointed because you and I and other people have been responsible for digging up some great scoops before the conference.
Yeah.
And
stupid internet ruining everything.
Because of that, we knew about so much going into it, and there were no big surprises. That's why Watch Dogs stood out. It was a big surprise at the end of a long, good conference. Nintendo had a big surprise at the end of their conference too, but it was Nintendo Land, and you know it just didn't turn out so well. I think it's a bunch of little mini games. We're used to that from Nintendo, and we're tired of seeing it. So
Microsoft's big surprise was Xbox Smart Glass. I think that says it all.
Rolls off the tongue. Yeah, I mean, if you want Sony's unannounced game that they showed, right? Wonderbook.
Right.
Wonderbook and Book of Spells in a demo that went on far too long. Should have been a teaser trailer. But yeah, that was the big thing, right? Is that we knew about so much coming in, and I think every conference, except for Nintendo because I fell asleep during it, but our conferences had the same setup, right? Of like, here's a huge game, here's some cool games, here's a lull where for you it was we're gonna talk about NHL, we're gonna talk about
the
NBA.
apps, all the entertainment apps, cleverly hidden, very intentionally hidden, right in the middle. So we'd hit hard with some Halo and some actual games in the forefront, and then we settled into the part where you could take a nap, and then let's come out of here and do some Tomb Raider. Yes.
Yeah, you see, and I mean, obviously they don't know what's doing, but Sony had the exact same idea, right? Here's Beyond, David Cage's new game, here's PlayStation All-Stars. Let's talk about the Vita for a second. Assassin's Creed Liberation looks awesome. We also have a Call of Duty, here's the logo. And now let's talk about PlayStation Move and Wonderbook and PlayStation Mobile, and we're like, oh, no way. But then they jacked it back up with The Last of Us. Meanwhile, what the hell happened in Nintendo?
I'll tell you what happened with Nintendo. We had 3 conferences.
Yeah.
3.
Really? I lost count. I'm amazed you were able to.
Yeah, so I know you guys had to wait, an entire hour for the big surprise at the end of the show, but I had to wait for 3 different hours and 3 different days at the end of the day. And last night they wrapped up the last one, and there was no surprise.
Okay.
They talked about all good 3DS games. We got some great Mario games coming out, a Paper Mario, a new Super Mario Bros. 2. The whole 3DS lineup is awesome. We knew about everything last year.
Unless you were surprised about just how much time they spent on Nintendo Land, which was all 3 conferences.
And that's their entire booth, too. What did you guys think of the booths this year?
Booths were good. I mean, that was the thing. We went and did a podcast beyond with Shuhei Yoshida, president of Sony Worldwide Studios, and we called him out on the pacing and the fact that there were no Vita games there. And his response to us was that, yeah, maybe we should have rethought that, because what we assumed was people would go to the booth and see all the Vita games. There's a ton of Vita games down on Sony's booth floor, which is cool, but then you're waiting for individual previews and yada, yada, yada. Like, the conference itself did not say, you bought a Vita, Sam, here's why you should matter. Or, Ryan, you don't own a Vita, here's why you should buy one.
Exactly. The publishers have to stop assuming, because we all know what assuming does. It happened again with Microsoft. The Summer of Arcade lineup, the Xbox Live Arcade lineup, is among the most creative thing going on the Xbox platform these days. How much time was spent on it at the Microsoft press conference? Approximately 0. But if you go to their booth, there's Deadlight, there's Tony Hawk, there's Hybrid, which looked really cool. There was lots of great games you could just walk right up and play at the Microsoft booth, but they didn't tell us about any of them at the conference.
So yeah, in the nooks and crannies of the Nintendo booth, there were some games they didn't even mention at the conference as well, and there was some cool stuff. There's a game from the Metal Gear Rising developer called Project P100. It's pretty cool. There's a game called Game & Wario. It's kind of like a WarioWare game. Like, who knows why they didn't mention that at the conference? They're both Wii U titles that use the Wii U controller in interesting ways.
Sam, here's the thing. I think when we came in, we were all like, it's Nintendo's conference to lose, right? They were the only person who was going to talk, or only company, that was going to talk about their next console. Why didn't the Wii U blow everyone's socks off and make people go, oh my god, Nintendo won this show?
Man, I think the Wii U, it just doesn't have games yet. I think Nintendo started thinking about it at the same time we all did. You know, maybe they came up with the idea a few years ago, but I just don't. I've heard from a lot of developers that they just didn't get kits in people's hands in time.
Well, and all their third-party games are games that Greg and I have been playing for the last year on our platform.
An armored version of Batman. Cool.
And that Mass Effect 3 game that I finished and raged about on the internet a few months ago.
To be fair, the fact that Mass Effect is coming out on a Nintendo system, that's big news.
Sure. And I mean, Colonial Marines is the same thing. That'll be. Is it day and date? I don't even know. No.
Yeah,
Do we not know yet?
We don't know what the.
Well, I hope so. It's out in February. So.
Oh, then it better be. Aliens. Sorry, Craig. I don't know much about your game. So here's the interesting question I have for you guys. Is this saying something about the future of the industry in a way? The fact that we have these 3 console manufacturers, and with the conference we're talking about, this company that won it is just a game publisher. I always talk about, with Sony, right? The reason they keep buying first-party studios is to future-proof themselves. One day they will be out of the hardware market, and they're just going to be a game publishing company. Is that what you think we're moving towards here? That these companies need to get over the fact that, hey, we have PlayStation Mobile, and hey, we have Smart Glass, and just say, hey, we have games.
I just think what this week said to the world was that we are all ready for some new platforms because publishers are so risk-averse. The stakes have gotten so high with the installed bases of these consoles being so high that nobody's greenlighting anything that's not a sequel to a multi-million selling franchise. I mean, Microsoft had lots of great games. I mean, you saw Tomb Raider, you saw Gears of War Judgment, Halo 4, but these are all things that are known quantities that are very, very low risk for the publishers.
Sure.
Sony was really the only first-party publisher that came out and said, hey, I think there's still some life left in this. Here's The Last of Us. Here's Beyond. We think we can still introduce some new experiences to you, so credit to them for that. But, God, we are all ready for some new platforms where the bar is reset to 0 and we can all start seeing some new IPs and some publishers take some new risks and try and start new franchises.
Sure.
And I'd like to mention my favorite new IP at the show was a Nintendo IP from Ubisoft, of course, Zombie U. It's on a next-gen console. It's for Wii U. It's the most next-gen feeling game I saw at the entire show. It uses the Wii U controller in actually interesting ways. It makes you, a little bit distracted from a normal zombie game. You get freaked out while you're looking down at this little controller. You look up and there's zombies attacking you. I mean, that's what I want to see from our next generation of stuff.
It's doing something different, right? It's doing something different. It's pushing it forward. One of my favorite games from this is Unfinished Swan, a 2-hour game that's a download off the PlayStation Network, right? This small studio that's just making something completely bonkers and cool. That is, and like this was the big thing for me today. What I wrote about, right, is the fact that they showed God of War single player. They showed the most beautiful Kratos they've ever shown for PlayStation, and no one could give 2 Fs about it. You know what I mean? It's just, oh, well, yeah, cool. It's more God of War. And it's like that statement alone, seeing how when God of War 2 got announced, I mean, people were freaking out and having sex in the aisle. They were so excited. This time, they're like, all right, cool. I'm done with this.
Yeah. We've maxed out. The volume can only be cranked to 11 so many times, and so now we're all just deaf.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The experts have spoken, and Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they all knocked each other out, and Ubisoft just walked by going, I win, crossed the finish line, cut the ribbon, ate the cake. But our opinion really doesn't matter. It's the internet. So what do you think? Leave a comment below on this video, then click on the link below to go cast your official ballot. No hanging chads, no Florida situations. Let us know who won. Beyond.